Alright, how's it going, guys? In today's video, we're going to be talking about our next potential nor'easter for the New England states of the United States. And interestingly enough, we're starting things out in the southwestern United States, so we're going to be taking a look at the entire United States during this video. But before I get started with this one, I would ask that you do subscribe if you do like weather-related content, and also make sure to check out the links in the description for our social medias. Alright, let's get started with things here. You can see in the southwest, we have a little bit of a low pressure system there offshore of San Francisco. And this is also coupled with some more areas of low pressure within the southwestern states, some of those four corner states. And this is bringing a lot of precipitation, even snow, to some of these states right now. Interestingly enough, this will eventually become a nor'easter offshore of New England. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, it's not a nor'easter if it's not in New England. Well, it will be. It's kind of like how a tropical storm isn't a hurricane, but it will be a hurricane, that type of deal. So we're going to take a look at the entire United States here. And you can see we do have our storm that I made a video on yesterday there for Wisconsin. And then we have no area of very strong low pressure there in the southwest, but it's there. And we're going to move on one here towards maybe early Friday morning, like 2 a.m. there, and you can see we're getting snowfall for Colorado, Kansas, Oklahoma, and a lot of rain there for Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Oklahoma. By the time we're at Friday afternoon, it's very quickly making its way east, and we have a lot of that precipitation still in the areas for Arkansas and Mississippi, all these areas alike. Then by time we're at early Saturday morning, we finally have a developed low pressure system that is really intensifying after this point. Things are about to get very exciting as we watch this one trek up the east coast of the United States. You can see we have areas of yellows, orange, and that low pressure system is finally developing. And this is going to lead to some heavy rain potentially for somewhere in the southeastern United States. It could be a little bit further north, a little bit further south of this, but nevertheless, we do expect to see some areas of low pressure make its way east. And then by time we're at Saturday afternoon, this is going to be maybe Saturday evening of November 23rd, we see this low pressure system turning north a little bit early. Okay, so that is a little bit of a concern, but we see this happen quite often. And you'll see how this plays out as we move on to early Sunday morning. And you're probably thinking, this isn't a nor'easter. The low pressure is over, Erie, Pennsylvania, and some of the Finger Lakes regions of New York. And we do see some snow for Ohio potentially, actually, with that one as well. I'm just noticing that. But by time we get to Sunday afternoon, you can see the low pressure transfers, and we actually see our low pressure be centered offshore of New Jersey. And this becomes sort of a Miller B nor'easter, I guess, since it's not offshore until about over the mid-Atlantic states. Nevertheless, we do see some mixed precipitation starting up for regions in New England, and we're going to be looking at the potential for some snowfall for a lot of these states, maybe more, maybe less than what this is showing, but this is showing the potential for snowfall and mixed precipitation at least at that as we move on to the next very exciting frames. You see we have a 998 millibar low pressure system. We are going to move on once again. One more, we're going to zoom in as well. As we move on one more towards Sunday evening, you can see more snow making its way into New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine, and even backtracking down through Pennsylvania and a little bit of West Virginia there as well. We have a 995 millibar low pressure system right near Long Island, and surprisingly, this one doesn't look to have too much wind as of right now, but I'm going to keep you guys up to date with that, and we're also going to take a look at the actual wind we're expecting. We're going to take a look at the total rain we're expecting and the total snow we're expecting as of right now on this model, but things could change significantly as the time frame when it's actually going to be in the Northeast or potentially be in the Northeast is pretty far out. So it could be further east, further west, weaker, stronger. We just know that there's the signals for the potential for a nor'easter during this time frame. All right, let's move on another frame, and you can see it's right over Cape Cod by this point is a 994 millibar low pressure system. Very classic nor'easter signal, just not a lot of precipitation making its way onshore. We have heavy rain there in between Massachusetts and New York and in between Connecticut and New York. And some mixed precipitation and snow still going on for Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. But not a lot going on besides that. We are going to move on one more to early on Monday, November 25th, so maybe 1 or 2 a.m. once again. And we have a 990 millibar low pressure system, and it's offshore of Maine and Massachusetts, and the precipitation is getting a bit heavier for the southern New England areas, and we are getting more widespread more widespread snow by this point for Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont, which is a good sign. And it is nighttime, and we see the cold moving in after this one, so this isn't very surprising. We are going to move on to Monday morning, Monday, November 25th morning, and it's probably about, I would say, 6 a.m., so right as the sun is rising for a lot of these regions. And we do see heavy snow there for the Canadian and Maine border. Very, very interesting. Still a 990 millibar low pressure system. And then you can see it's basically moved out by Monday evening. All right, now we're about to move on to our exciting total rainfall forecast for this one. As you can see, we have heavy amounts of rain there for the four corner states, Nevada and California, even Southern California. Very, very interesting setup there. And then even throughout the southeast and then up through the southern New England regions, we're expecting at least half an inch of rain for all of those blue regions. And this is all due to this nor'easter system. If you're in the greens, you're below half an inch. So you're anything to half an inch. If you're in the blues, you're half an inch to 2 inches. In those lighter blues, you're over an inch, so you're probably closer to 2 inches. And then in those more pink colors, that's where we're expecting 2 inches plus, and even into some of those deeper purples there for some of the northern deep south states, so areas like northern Alabama, northern Mississippi, northern Georgia. We are expecting on this model, as of right now, 3 to maybe 5 inches of rain for a lot of those regions. Now, something interesting I wanted to take a look at is the Canadian model here, and just to show you guys how different the outlook could be depending on which model or what happens. We are seeing the signal for a nor'easter, but look at the GEM model, the Canadian model, which is a little less reliable usually than the GFS. But we see that nor'easter is there. It's just well offshore of New Jersey, and it stays that way throughout the entire run, and we hardly see any rain for New England or the Northeast. And that's how big of a difference we could see with things. All right, let's move on to our wind outlook here. And I told you guys I would show this. You can see we're hardly expecting any wind with this one, which is very interesting as of right now. It could be more intense than this, and the model could be wrong. But as of right now, the wind, I mean, maybe 16 to 30 knots, maybe. But it's looking more on the lower end of that, so under 25 knots, which is not very intense for nor'easters, especially the ones we've been having recently. So as of right now, not looking too bad as far as wind. This could obviously change significantly, though, in the future, so pay attention to that. We will be updating this if it looks to really verify. Now, here is the snowfall outlook for the GFS run through the point where we're through past the nor'easter, and you can see we do have some heavier amounts there for Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. Potentially 4 inches to maybe over 6 inches there for some regions in Ohio. Don't know how much that will verify. That could be very, very different. But we do see potential for snowfall throughout New England with this one. That's from mixed precipitation and snowfall, so we'll have to keep a very, very close eye on that one. A lot of this snow in Vermont and New Hampshire is actually what we're getting today and not with that future storm, so pay attention to that as well. But Adirondacks, Finger Lakes, up through the Green Mountains, White Mountains, some of those Berkshires, and up through Maine, potentially 1 to 3 inches in a lot of these lighter shaded areas, which is going to be very, very interesting to forecast. This one could potentially, with timing differences, be very, very major snowfall event. If it's a nor'easter, full-blown nor'easter, and we have the cold in place, if it hits a little bit later, that would significantly change what we're looking at here as far as an event. The only thing we know right now is there's a signal that there's a chance for a nor'easter in this time frame, and that's what the GFS is showing right now. And that's what I just showed you guys. But again, further east, further west, timing differences, the actual intensity could be very different. So if it could be way stronger, it could be placed more perfectly. And also the timing could be better, and all of a sudden you have a major northeast snowstorm. And that's how a lot of these events are. Usually, I would say one out of 4 times it actually plays out the way that would have a major snowstorm. So 3 out of 4 of those times, we really just see it not live up to its full potential. And that's what we're usually dealing with as people who are weather enthusiasts, as events that very rarely actually play out the way that would maximize their potential. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you guys stay safe as this nor'easter makes its way from the Four Corner States all the way through the Southeast and then back up into the New England states. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.